Abby, it's time. Are you ready?
I am so ready, Steve.
This is, I know, the highlight of your week. I can tell by how fixed up you cleaned your car up. That's great. Thank you so much. Our viewers appreciate that as well.
I have a car this week.
All right. Well, we're making improvements. Everybody, this is Soft Elbows. This is episode 2. As you noticed, today we got a champ in the house. Well, one of the houses. Abby's in her car. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. As you all know, Chris just a couple weeks ago won the 61 kilos national title, and I also was there. So I feel like do you
we won.
We won the national. Thank you so much. I didn't want to say it, but thank you so much.
Chris, please don't give him too much credit. It's gonna go right to his head.
Listen, we're gonna get to like a bigger interview of Chris later in the show, but just as a spoiler alert, question number 1 is gonna be. Like, what are your thoughts on politics and religion? No. Okay. All right. We'll think of something better. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. It won't be politics. It won't be religion. Abby, what are we talking about today?
Oh, goodness. We are going to talk about so many things. Let's start off by talking about Tough Temple. Both Steve and I were there today, and we had a grand old time, didn't we?
We had a grand old time because I was doing all the work, and you were just, like, saying things out loud.
I did say a lot of things out loud. So Steve and I both were there for a couple sessions. We watched the better part of the first women's session together. That was a good time. All of our friends did amazing. And then we actually, sacked up and helped out for the second session, that first men's session there. I hopped on a mic as promised. I don't know if I promised anything, but I definitely said I might hop on a mic, but I did it. And then Steve actually was, the real MVP of the day and loaded. And what a session to load for. Loading is not easy. If you've ever done it, kudos to you. It's probably the most difficult. You're moving the most weight of anybody in the building. Everyone always says it. And if you haven't loaded at a competition before, I highly recommend doing it just so that when you compete, you can have just an additional level of appreciation for the people that are loading your bar for you. So thank you for your service, Steve.
You know what? I wasn't going to say this, but you're welcome.
Brian hopped in a chair. I think did he assistant marshal or did he marshal? He was moving the cards around.
They for sure don't trust him enough to actually let him marshal. He just
no.
He just gets to sit there and feel important. And I want to be totally, can I be honest with you? Just between you and me.
Please.
Almost everyone did great today. The lifters were great. The coaches were great. John Weeks was put on a great meet, and Brian tried his best. Brian tried his best, and that's all we can ask for. So, maybe he'll have a chance at WSO championships. Yeah, he can try.
Yeah, he will. I kept. In his defense, I did keep punching him because I was like, get a picture of Troy, I need somebody to send me content so I'm not just stalking his Instagram for pictures all the time.
Yeah. Did you were at one point, it's appeared we're announcing DJing and also providing content live for the DMD Weightlifting page. Did you have any favorite moments from the session that you were announcing?
I'm a little biased because I'm friends with him outside of, just being the DMV person, but Matt Nepomuceno, I don't know if you guys know him. He's been around for a hot minute. He's been in the sport, I think, longer than I have. And he used to lift with me at Mario's gym. He has since moved on to a different spot, I think closer to him and his wife. He went 6 for 6. He went 107, 137. And I mean, when he stuck that 137, he really got under it, and just everyone in the room was like, ah! And so that was pretty awesome. And then there were a few records that were set too. There were some masters records in that session.
Yes.
And that was pretty great to see too. Some other missed records too, but just anytime there's a record on the bar and someone's going for it, it's hard not to get really excited for them.
And I think that's what's great about local meets, right? Is it's a huge mixture. Like when you go to nationals, like listen, everybody thinks they're like super important and like, you're like, oh, I'm the shit. Like everybody's like walking around. But like at a local meet, where the people lift, me and everyone else, you get this huge you get this huge range. Like we had people today who it was their first meet. We had people today who were coming back from injury. We had people today who were going for records, and like the whole gamut of experience. And I think like, listen, when people make heavy attempts at national meets, it is electric. It is a huge deal. We talked about that in our last episode. But there's a different like degree of joy when you have a local lifter who like, they work, a 9 to 5, or maybe they work 12-hour shifts. Like, we don't know, but like they've got a whole bunch of other like stuff going on in their life, and they train when they can, and they put everything that they've got left into a sport that they really love. And then they hit this goal that they've been working towards for so long. And, they're surrounded by a bunch of people, some of whom know them and some of whom don't. And everyone's going wild because they can just see the emotion of it. And I thought it was great. John Weeks runs a great meet.
He
Tough
does.
Temple, he's the guy who runs Tough Temple Open. But it was really cool just to like every time, like I get more geeked up watching local meets sometimes than I do watching national meets, just because like sometimes, except for when, like when Chris is lifting, obviously.
Right. Yeah. Who cares?
Right. No, just tell him he's important. That's what he wants to hear. It's fine. But like
the other cool thing that I love about local meets is like there's never any egos. Like everyone is there. They're all just like, man, I just hope I make a lift, and like everyone's so nice to each other. You make all the friends in the back. It's fun.
I will say that we're going to talk about this later. I'll save this. Okay. I'll save this for a later segment. But I got one bone to pick from today. But while we're still on the topic of Tough Temple, there was a guy who was lifting in the session that you were announcing. His name is George Stephan, and he
went 6 for 6.
He went 6 for 6, which is hard to do at any meet. But for him specifically, just as like some background, 8 months ago, he suffered a rather serious back injury. And like fact that he is now able to lift at all, and by the way, he suffered the injury in a weightlifting competition. Like he was in the middle of a snatch.
Oh, wow.
Suffered the injury and like has put a ton of work in, and to come back and just like the mental like win of being able to snatch in training and then snatch in a competition and then to make all 6 lifts. Again, like I know that these are people suffer injuries at national meets and they come back from stuff, and like it's not like this is an exclusively local meet thing, but like to see him today, like he was focused and he was precise. His lifts look great. He was doing like his PT exercises in between his attempts.
Yeah, he
like
was.
Everything he needed to do to have the day that he had. And it's great. It was great to see him get rewarded with a 6 for 6 performance. And just super impressive that he was able to put all that together.
Do you know what the injury was?
I don't. He has told me in the past. I know that it was a back injury, and that's. I mean, I feel like any type of back injury is pretty serious. But from what I recall, it was not a minor thing.
Yeah.
His lifts looked good too. Like it wasn't like he was going out putting up sloppy form. Like he was in control of the barbell. He attacked the barbell. It was awesome.
And that your boy Matt, like one of the things I appreciated about his lifts, like everything looked precise. Like he wasn't wrestling with it at the bottom. He moved well with the bar, and to do it at somewhere around maximal weights is much easier said than done.
His wife has beautiful technique too. I haven't seen her compete in a while, but maybe we can peer pressure her to come back out.
Sounds like something we can do.
She's a beautiful lifter. Yeah.
I know we were thanking me for my service earlier, and listen, I'm not going to tell you to stop. I was thanking me for my service earlier. You're welcoming, you're still welcome. But on a slightly embarrassing note, I was helping load, and Brian was giving me shit, and I was like, oh, that's just Brian being Brian, typical negative, always putting other people down, Brian. And then John Weeks, the meet director, comes into the back where the loaders were, and he was like, hey, and he's looking straight at me. Like it was clear that I was the problem. He was look straight at me. And he goes, anything you can do to speed this up. We're running a little behind. And I was like, oh, I am actually the problem. Oh, great.
Yeah,
great.
I wasn't
Sorry,
I wasn't just messing with you when I said walk faster, Steve.
Got it. Okay, fine. Any other thoughts from today? It's a 2-day meet. We're recording this on Saturday night, so we're not going to have any feedback or thoughts from Sunday, but just as like
predictions.
Bets. Let's place bets on how people will do. That sounds like a terrible way to have the show come to an end. We're so sorry, Brian. We're so sorry.
I feel like it would actually be, there's got to be some opportunity for us to start like some sort of DMV gambling ring, for weightlifting. Like maybe it's just because I work with like guys in finance who are gambling all the time, but like, why is there no weightlifting sports gambling? Anyway,
we made it 1.2 episodes before coming up with an idea that for sure will get this podcast shut down. Yeah. Yikes! USAW is not about that. I'm fairly confident.
Sorry, Brian. Unfortunate.
All right. What? Yes.
No, one more thought about Tough Temple. Both board members Kelly and Bianca competed today as well. I love like the tenacity that Kelly competes with. Like she just goes out and is so intense and like, she throws the bar around and I love it. And she's so nice too. Like, she's walking around with donuts for everyone. Like who does that? It's so cool. In addition to all the stuff she does for the board. And then I was in the middle of training and got a little notification on my phone. Bianca smashed an 89 kilo clean and jerk and it was awesome. She brought the house down.
She's so strong. She's so athletic. And she, again, like moves really well. But yes, she made 89, which I believe was a maximal attempt for her. Look very smooth, awesome. which is tough to do.
She's definitely good for more.
Yeah. Christopher, thoughts on today? Oh, you didn't come. Guy wins one national title, and all of a sudden he's too good to go to local meets.
Yeah, God forbid I'll be there tomorrow.
That's funny.
Speaking of local meets, Abby, we got another one coming up in 2 weeks.
We got sure do.
We got Broken coming up on July 27th, I believe is the Saturday.
Yep.
That'll be at CrossFit Invictus in DC in the Navy Yard area. If you haven't signed up, don't worry, we'll let you in. Except for Brian, we will not let him in.
Brian.
Definitely not Brian.
So you can show up the day of and compete?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I feel confident, speaking on behalf of my com, if you show up on July 27th, we will find a way to get you in this meet. Anyway. But no, it'll be a good time. We got some friends, believe it or not. The folks at Black and Red do have friends. The folks at District Physio and Performance are going to be there. They're Sweet. Phenomenal PTs. They'll be offering sessions for folks, athletes who are lifting. If you're really nice and really persuasive, maybe they'll treat you even if you're not there. If you're just there to support, we'll take that too. But it'll be a good time. Abby, are you gonna? Is this one I can like strong arm you into coming in and announcing a session at Broken?
I mean. If it
sounded like a yes.
Popular demand, we'll see.
It is by the demand of one person, maybe two.
You're very popular.
Two. That's true. It is by unpopular demand.
As long as I get like one person to like enable me in the crowd, somebody, I don't know who it was. There were these two girls that were sitting behind. She was awesome. She was sitting behind the one judge, and like I'd say like, "Oh, he wants more weight," and she'd go, "Yeah, he does." I was dying. I was just like, yes, this is what I do it for.
Have you announced before, Abby?
I've done it a couple times. I did it at Baltimore Open. Not nearly as like, expressive as I am now, but then Scott Gonzalez, who does like all the systems, he threw me on the mic just randomly. He was like, I need someone to take this mic so I can go do my technology stuff at the meet that my team 1440 put on up at York Barbell. He throws me on a mic, and like that's kind of when I started to like get really goofy with it, and like I started to actually kind of enjoy being on the mic. So yes, the short answer is yes, I have microphoned before.
We've got a hard confirmation. Abby will be there announcing at least one session. The people are excited, and by people, I mean the least popular among us. Things will be said. Another meet that's coming up. I don't know, Abby, have you heard they're hosting the WSO Championships in September? Is this anything that you might know about?
Yeah, I sure do. So CrossFit revamped September 21st and 22nd. We still have spots open for WSO Championships. This one, I will be announcing a majority of the sessions. I've been strong-armed by Miss Kelly Nichols to, be on the mic. So I really gotta condition my voice. I'm not much of a talker, so
Sure.
talking for 2 days straight is gonna be a little rough. But
yeah,
there's gonna be one session.
If you could just keep silent until then, like.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I'm too chatty, but there'll be one session that I won't be on the mic because I'm actually going to lift at WSO Championships. I'm putting my money where my memes are, and I'm going to sign up on Monday.
We'll let Mike Choi announce that session to get back at you for these months of just like cruelty.
Oh my God. Well, you know what? That's a dangerous game for him to play because I could still very well meme him into oblivion after that.
We got a couple of updates on WSO Championships since the last time we saw you guys. It is official. We have a hotel block reserved for anybody who's coming from out of the area, or even if you live down the street and you just feel like treating yourself like a high caliber athlete that day. There's a Courtyard Marriott that's about 4 miles from the venue. The rates will be, I guess, depends on the size of the room, somewhere between $119 and $139 per night. Nice. And again, that is a block that's reserved for any athlete, coach, spectator, whatever. Just say that you're with Abby Richards, and they'll let you in under this block rate. But we'll make sure that that Abby posts a link to the block rate to the hotel when this episode gets posted. Yes. We talked about some of the vendors that we'll have the last time. And those vendors, sponsors. We've not just got vendors; we've got sponsors. RP is sponsoring us. LMNT is sponsoring us. Onyx is sponsoring us. Caffeine and Kilos is sponsoring us. Yes. Celsius is sponsoring us. A group called Patches of Earth is sponsoring us. And when I say sponsor, the only important thing for you guys to understand is what that means is that free stuff will be there for all of you. But it's not available to you if you don't come. So you should sign up. Abby, we learned that the reward of dunking either of us into a dunk tank didn't move the needle. So we're gonna have to get more. We're gonna have to get more extreme in what we're willing to offer. If I heard you correctly, this was your idea.
I'm scared.
If I heard you correctly earlier today, you told me that you will perform your rendition of the Eras Tour during one of the breaks. Is that? Am I lying? I remember you saying
DMD,
this.
Are you ready for it? Like,
yeah. So
I know this choreography like the back of my hand.
During one of the breaks, and this is only if, let's see if this moves the needle. Let's lower the number. Last week it was 25. Last week it was 25. If 15 people will sign up for the WSO Championships between now and our next episode, Abby Richards will perform some Taylor Swift song on the platform in between one of the sessions for the WSO Championships. You heard it here first. You can tell by her posture right now is ecstatic that I remembered this from a conversation we had several hours ago.
I'd like to also put the caveat that like my own sign up is not counting towards that 15. Absolutely not. 15 plus me.
Have you not signed up yet? Oh wow, Abby!
I'm signing up on Monday.
Yeah, so I guess we need 16 people. 16 people to sign up for the meet. And Abby will not only compete but also do her best Taylor Swift imitation.
Performing.
I can't wait to find out who serves as Travis Kelce in this onstage performance. I look forward to, I don't know, John Weeks or someone coming up on stage and just like
my
carrying you off.
God.
Anyway,
That's
back
so
to more
funny.
serious business. Not that that
Anyway.
wasn't a real threat. Like, she will actually do this.
Mm.
We will have food trucks there, and we'll have more information for you guys in the coming weeks on what specific type of food. But there will be food trucks there, and there will also be photography packages for any of the athletes. Or I guess if you've got like a really egotistical coach and they want like a photography package of them, I'm sure that
maybe you're loading.
Yeah, like guy, I think that's actually that's the best idea you've had. You know, thank you so much. Like, that's all we need. Like,
Slow
it's
motion
just,
of the collar spin. I'd see that. I'd watch it.
anyone who wants their picture taken will have an opportunity to have a photography package taken. And we will again have more information on who will be offering those packages and what kind of rates they're going to offer. But just know that that will be part of the show on that date. Did I miss anything, Abby? Any other updates on WSO championships?
I don't think so. But definitely sign up. If you're not doing anything that weekend, you need a competition to sign up for, definitely do it. It's going to be a good time. And, this is definitely a meet that like we as the committee want to like build and have it be as cool as like Florida State's and other WSOs, how they have their championships. And so the only way we're going to do that is if you people, and myself included, sign up.
Yeah, you included, Abby.
I called myself out. Don't worry.
All right, good. All right, our next segment is going to be called. We're going to try it out. This is a new segment we're introducing. Tell us, if you like it, we'll keep doing it. If you hate it, we'll probably keep doing it because it's our show. We'll do what we want. But this segment is going to be called "Has Big Jake Ever Actually Been to Pittsburgh?" And this segment is specifically designed to talk about everything except for whatever Big Jake allegedly did at Nationals this year. I'm not buying it. So the people though, they had other things that they wanted to talk about, and so in this edition of "Has Big Jake Ever Been to Pittsburgh?" What was the first thing they wanted us to talk about, Abby?
I gotta hand it to you guys. You all responded to my little questionnaire, and you gave us some topics. So thank you. Please continue to do so. I'm keeping a list in my phone of everything you send me, no matter how goofy, nonsensical it is. It's going in my phone. It's gonna live in my phone. I thought it would be cool since Steve and I were both at Tough Temple today, and it's competition day for a lot of you. We thought it would be cool to kind of talk about like game day superstitions and a lot of the stuff that goes into game day. And so with that being said, Steve, do you have superstitions, or are you superstitious? Are you little stitious?
I'm like semi-stitious, mini stitches. I don't know. Mini stitches? We'll go with mini stitches. So I don't have like pre-lift things like I don't have someone in the back just like slap me across the face or anything like that. But I will say that. What's that?
Have you tried?
No, actually, you know what?
Well, usually you just miss it. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Abby. Another. Sorry, we forgot a quick promo for another local meet coming up. Bassa is holding one August 10th.
Big Saturday.
And I'll tell you what, Abby, if you will sign up with me, we'll both do this meet. It's just like a heavy training day. And if you do this, I will let you slap me across the face before each of my attempts.
That is tempting. Let me check the calendar and check with
Wow. Even the opportunity to slap me in the face doesn't get you there. Jason, I tried, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm going to try my best.
The only thing that I do consistently, just because I'm a creature of habit, is I will eat the same thing after weigh-ins. I've been doing this like literally for 7 or 8 years. I've eaten the same exact thing after weigh-ins. And what I do the night before I lift is I create these sandwiches, and they're cinnamon raisin bagels, and then there's some almond butter, and there's some honey, and there's some bananas, and then I scrunch all that together, and I keep it in the refrigerator overnight so that it's cold and a little soggy, and that's a little disconcerting. But what are you gonna do? And I have this is not a joke, 2 or 3 of those, and then I just go out there and lift. lift. I attempt
I like
to pull things off the ground. But that's like, as far as superstitions go, like I don't have like a lucky pair of socks or anything like that. Like I feel like you're more superstitious than I am, Abby.
I'm very superstitious, but before we talk about me again, I want to hear about Chris. Do you have any superstitions?
For lifting on the meet days, maybe I should. Maybe it's too just whatever happens. But I actually do have a lucky pair of socks that I'll wear.
Nice.
Also, had you ever won a national title before having me in the back?
No, so
Am I the superstition?
that could be it.
Guys, I mean, let's not find out the hard way.
Wow.
All right, Abby, go. What do you got?
Oh goodness, where do I even begin? I've got like pieces of clothing that I like to wear. Like I've got a lucky sports bra. I've got my favorite pair of socks. I wear the same pair of leggings every time. Oh goodness, what else is there? I think that's it for clothes, but like I will drink an Orange Rain. I don't like to not drink an Orange Rain. I'll have Sour Patch Kids to snack on in the back. I try to have a bagel sandwich, like a bacon, egg, and cheese on a bagel, before like or after weigh-in. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
and
not too
then
heavy
I will
for you?
also crush. No, well, you know, it's funny you asked that because like at the Arnold, it definitely wasn't. Like it was, I was good. And like one of the things I learned was like I can really house a lot of food before lifting and it goes well at the Arnold. But then at Nationals, not so much because as some of us might know, I, sprinted off the platform after my third clean and jerk and, vomited into a trash can. Someone came by and was like, why were you just having an exorcism? But like, anyway, no, I mean, I like that, and then I'll like throw back an LMNT. I have several like little not ticks, but like habits like leading up. I won't say bomb out. I call it the B word for like weeks leading up to it. This one I think is just in general, I think more people should follow this practice, and it's just kind of polite, but like I won't talk anything negative about any other lifter like leading up to competitions. Like if someone
Before
starts
that,
to
just,
There's a 2-week cutoff. Before those 2 weeks, Abby is a savage. And she is talking shit on everybody she's ever come across. And then those 2 weeks come across, she's like, you know what?
no,
I'll be a respectful human being for the next couple weeks. It seems like a good thing to throw into the atmosphere.
No, I didn't mean it for it to come across like that. I'm not a mean person. I don't talk a lot of smack about people. But like when other people try to talk about like, oh, like I think such and such is gonna do this, I'm like, nope, like get that away from me. Take it away, take it elsewhere. Like don't speculate anywhere near me. I don't like it.
But before that, you're
and
like,
then, well, I mean, but like here's the thing: is like when Worlds comes around and stuff, like yeah, I'm gonna let my friends talk to me about how they think Toma's gonna do and that kind of stuff. But like local lifters, like don't you dare, don't do that to me. Don't put that juju on me, and also just be nice. Like we're like humble yourselves.
Yep.
And then the last thing that like I do every single time, there's this SoundCloud mix that I like. It's like EDM-y, and they play clips of like the best sporting moments of all time. And there's a clip at one point, the music like kind of fades, and it's Alex Ovechkin, his Stanley Cup speech. And the one last thing, before the year, I said, we're not going to be fucking suck this year. And then we're Stanley Cup champions. And so I listen to this SoundCloud mix until I hear Ovi do his Stanley Cup speech. And then like, I'm like, all right, I can turn this off now. And I put Taylor Swift on. So
I feel like a different topic for a different day would be like the things that people watch / listen to right before a meet. Cause there's this old like this is like gotta be 10 years old now. This like John North montage that I guarantee you there's like 50% of lifters watch this video before they go lift. But it's just like this, I think it's black and white, and like it's him yelling at Donnie Shankle and like a bunch of just wild shit.
Yeah, the best of John North. I watch it like once a week.
kind of have to.
Wait, Abby, hypothetical situation. You're at the meet. You've weighed in. You're eating. You're feeling good. You're watching John North montages, and then you like look through your bag because it's time to get your stuff on, and a thief has stolen your lucky socks, how much of a spiral is that going to cause you to go into?
You know, socks, not so much, because, like, socks are socks. Like, yeah, I have the pair that I like, but, like, I've never missed a lift because my socks are messed up. It's just more so, like, I know the pair that I like.
Okay, so
And
is
that's the pair that I
there
picked.
part of your like superstitious routine that you feel like would be like socks or whatever, but like this thing, like this is what will cause me to miss a lift, surely?
If I don't have pants under my singlet, there is really something about lifting in shorts that I can't do it. I
Okay.
do not like feeling that barbell against my legs. I do not like worrying about, you know, blood being on the bar. Like that's something I get really, really anxious about. So pants. Yeah.
Abby is pro pants. Got it. Okay.
Pants.
What is the next? What's the next topic that people wanted to hear about?
Kind of on that note, somebody had asked about like your setups, like how you approach the barbell. Is it the same every single time? I personally try to keep it the same. I don't think there's like I don't think there's merit in approaching different weights different ways. I think if you practice what you're going to compete with, you know, that muscle memory is good for you. And I think you should approach the bar the same way every time. And like, you know, maybe when you're 6 weeks out from a meet, don't start messing with your grip width and that kind of stuff. You know, and don't start messing with things with your technique that could, like, you know, goof around with it. But like when you just finish a competition, you know, feel free, try some new stuff. Like I am moving my grip in right now, so I'm just kind of messing around with that. So that's one example. But like in general, I definitely think you should be approaching the bar the same way every time.
Okay, Chris, what do you got with your setup?
I feel like I do the same thing every time, maybe just some stomp. I make sure the bar, which maybe to some is actually the wrong technique, but the bar touches my shins, actually, especially when I start the snatch. That's actually just to reproduce it the same way every time. But sometimes you're supposed to have the bar over your shoelaces instead of actually touching. But other than that, pretty much the same. What about you, Steve?
I used to be one. I'm also a shin toucher. Is that a thing?
We all are.
Yes, yes. I too like the bar to touch the shins. But I used to be a lot more dogmatic with my setup than I am now. And perhaps this is the difference between two national lifters and a guy. But I used to and I genuinely mean this. I'm not judging anyone who does this. I understand the value. But I used to be one of the folks who would they would scream and shout and whatever. And if that gets you where you need to be, then do it. But for me, it became an expenditure of energy that I didn't have to waste. I'm not
need everything.
I do. I really do. Guys, I have very little margin for error when it comes to lifting. So it just wasn't useful for me to expand that extra energy when I needed to be focused on whatever cue is the primary one for that lift or that day or that cycle or whatever. So
you used to scream and then you stopped.
I don't know if I ever screamed, but I did. I used to. There was there was a thing that I used to say out loud before I would bend over and do the lift, and I don't remember what it was, but I just it was a thing that was it was too much focus, not a part of the lift.
You think that faded, or was there meat where you're no?
I don't think there was one moment, but I don't know. It just at some point it just it didn't have any bearing on whether I made the lift or not. And I had just told myself this is what you have to do. And and the reality is I was going to miss that lift anyway. The fact that so it just wasn't a good use of my limited resources.
Let's stand fair about your misses.
Yes. Yeah. I wanted to draw less attention to my lifting, so I needed to be less loud.
Well, even to that point too, when you're in a state where you feel like you need to hype yourself up to that point, I feel like you've already convinced yourself that you're going to miss the lift, so you need something extra. I feel like a lot of people do that, you know? But
Yeah.
anyway.
But, and again, like if you are, and everybody's like personality walking around is different too. So if you're normally low key and you need a little bit of extra juice or a little bit extra whatever, then like go for it.
Yeah.
It just didn't serve me, and so I let it
Right.
go.
That's fair.
What else?
I think we can save some others for later.
Oh, we're gonna keep stuff in the back pocket.
Yeah, I somebody asked me about the Olympics, and kind of like what we were talking about on like the speculations and stuff. I'd kind of rather recap, how our team does, because like right now I'm like, oh my God, they're all gonna do amazing, and that's really all I have to say about it.
I may have been
snoozing later.
I may have been snoozing in the pre-production meeting that we had. I thought we were going to talk about competition pet peeves, which was why I was going to bring up my one bone to pick for today. So I'm just going to introduce it. I don't know if the people want to hear about this, but like they're going to get it anyway. Listen, as someone who has like coached people through meets, I understand that you are there for the athlete. You are not there for any other athletes. You're just there for your athletes, and you're there to help that athlete have the best meet that they can. But at a local meet, when a coach intentionally burns someone else's 2-minute clock, I just like, it is infuriating. Like, it is a local meet. We are all trying to like make lifts and like support each other. And like, I don't know, that it just, maybe this is, this person is probably a better coach and has a more loyal following than I do. But it just strikes me the wrong way at a local meet. Like, there's no reason for that in my mind. Like if this is nationals and like this is the difference between like your person medaling and not medaling, then yeah, like be there to win. Absolutely. But like at a local meet, again, where there are a range of people who are having their first meet back from injury, or they've bombed out their last 3 meets. We talked about the mental struggles that can have. Like, we need to try to support them as best we can, so long as it's not like detrimental to your lifter. And that's like, I think the thing that bothers me the most is like you burning that 2-minute clock has nothing to do with your lifter. You're just doing it to spite somebody else. There's a time and a place for that, for sure. I'm not saying don't be a competitor at higher levels. I just personally don't think that the local meet is the place to do that.
You see that a lot?
Yeah, no.
I saw it, to be fair, I saw it once today. So like, it's not like this like epidemic of like, I can't believe, kids these days, like they don't know what they're doing. But like, but it just, it stands out to me when I see it. I think I actually said something to one of the other loaders and she was like, "You're insane." Just like,
I agree. Like at a local meet, it's not that serious. Like no one needs to be doing that. And maybe like, who knows, to that coach's credit, I don't remember who it was, but like, to their credit, like maybe they just
you're about to find out in the inbox here.
Oh my God, literally. Yeah. Please don't DM me. I want you to remain anonymous. I don't want to.
Seems like a good segue into the reason why everyone came to tune in for this show. One was for the pasta sign behind us, but secondarily, we want to hear about Chris. It's not. I mean, we have a lot of really good lifters in the DMV area. But winning a national title is a thing unto itself. We had 2 people do it. We're hoping to have Kateri Peters on a show sometime soon. In the meantime, we had to settle for you. So I think that your story is really interesting because there are lessons for a broad swath of lifters.
Not to do.
No. But like, I think that some of the things that you have gone through and have like persevered through and clearly overcome are things that lifters deal with on smaller levels or on maybe different levels, like tangential levels. So I for anyone who doesn't know, Chris was a very, very good lifter. You finished what, 2nd or 3rd at nationals?
2nd at 2019.
2nd at 2019 nationals, and then took a rather long break. How many years was it?
Well, it was 5 years. 2019 nationals, 2024 nationals.
Okay, so 5 years away from a national, from competing at nationals. But even within that 5, there were, 3 years where you really
3 years, maybe 3.5 years, really no barbell, no snatches, no clean and jerks. I think 2020 Bassa meet, one of those meets, I competed, and then not again until 2023 October.
Okay. So for the better part of 3 years, and I obviously you didn't go from not having touched a barbell to competing at a local meet, but like for the better part of 3 years, didn't pick up a barbell. and we're just, doing other things. What led you to walk away from the sport at that time? You were clearly a very good lifter, and were young at the time, and
at the
time, and now you're just, old and washed up. But that's not typically the person we think of when we say, oh, well, they walked away from the sport because of this, that, or the other. Like, what led you to that point?
Sure. So I guess for maybe a little bit of additional context, as you introduced, but I first was a USAW member in 2012. Okay. So, and my first meet was 2012. So basically from 2012 to 2019, I was competing in weightlifting, doing meets. I had met you at some point. That was a down part. But besides that, was basically generally competitive and with other things in life going on too, right? Undergraduate, graduate school, working professionally, things like that. I think what had really happened was 2020, when COVID happened, the inertia in order to lift became so much greater.
Okay.
The just barriers to entry, not just for myself, but for so many others. And what especially I had felt was it took me back to a place in my history of training when I was driving 3 hours each way, about 3 times a week, to go to the gym. And this is because I thought it was a good gym to go to. I thought it was worth that drive. Yeah. But I remember when COVID happened, it was like this stiffness in my back, feeling like I can't go through this type of expenditure just to lift again, just lift, regardless of everything else. So I think that's kind of just a combination of burnout, and that was mainly triggered by the pandemic and the difficulties associated with that with lifting, which I think is probably a universal thing. But I think I was just basically burnt out from all the things I was doing.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily think a 3-year, 3.5 year, whatever break was required. Maybe it could have been less, but then I had also moved states and other things were going on. So that's what really led to the break.
And then, so during that break, like I can't imagine that you were just like sedentary for, the better part of 3 years. Like how are you getting that fix, if you will, of like some sort of, movement related thing? What were you doing to those 3 years?
No, I was basically sitting in a room eating saltine crackers for about 3 years. And then I was like, you know what? It's time.
I'm ready. Like a little kitchen.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I guess it's time to get back to work.
No, I think at first, there was COVID, so maybe I was just doing sprints in a turf near me, right? Whatever you have to do. And then for maybe about 2 years, I was doing a lot of rock climbing. And I think based on my personality, I almost took it seriously like I did with weightlifting. I'd go to train at 6 a.m. I called it training. I'd look up all the extra things to do to get better and, add so many extra things. So that was the main thing I did in between that time.
All right.
Like occasionally I do a squat. One time I went to Colorado to see my friend Alec and outsnatched him. So besides that, not too much else. Mainly rock climbing is what I was doing.
Okay. And then you realize that people like you and I are not built for competitive rock climbing.
I never wanted to compete, but actually it wasn't too bad. I think you'd be fine too. The offer still stands if you want to go.
What a disaster. That's something like that's like a non-weightlifting episode. We'll have like Steve tries to rock climb. Like it'll be the last episode because
you'll die.
Abby will be in search of a co-host.
Not survive.
All right. So the break was for roughly 3 years. You were doing something to stay active in that time. What drew you back to weightlifting?
So the key reason why Steve invited me on this was for his own ego brush, because
that doesn't sound like me. I think if our loyal followers have learned anything from the first 1.5 episodes, it's that I am super humble and don't ever like taking credit for anything that I am not deserving for.
Well, I think it was the April 2023 Cap City Open. I was coaching my friend Alec there because he lives in Colorado.
Okay.
And it was a great opportunity that I had that he was actually visiting the area and I was able to come and coach him. I remember maybe after coaching him, I was watching some lifting and actually I remember watching you lifting there, Steve. And, you were missing. It didn't matter. But everyone was cheering. It looked like you just looked like you were having a great time. And I remember sitting in the stands watching this thinking, why am I not doing this anymore? I had invested so many years of my life being a part of this community, having so much fun with it. Well, why am I like completely out of it now? And just seeing, here's Steve, he's having a great time, right?
Just defying all odds.
Yeah.
Defying all odds.
Like, if he could do it, I could have a little fun, right? But actually, that really did motivate me. So that was April 2023, and at this beginning, maybe we could go over maybe how things changed, but just to say like, yeah, maybe I'll coach, right?
Okay.
Maybe it wasn't
Right.
competing, but I would be training and coaching or something like that. So I think that's what really kind of got me back into saying like, I want to be training regularly again and kind of back in my weightlifting community.
So after I inspired you to get back on the right path, you start training again, and after that much time off, I imagine you didn't go right back into the type of training, the volume, the consistency that you're doing now. Can you talk about what it was like to get back into the sport, especially because you'd had perspective and experience from before? Like, what things did you do different? How did it change the way you viewed training sessions or meets or the whole deal of preparing to do the sport again?
Yeah, so I think there's obviously some transition into thinking, what did it mean when I was actually doing the sport again? So at first that April, you could look up when Cap City was, but I knew, okay, I'll need to obviously scale back all my weights, ignore all the PRs that I ever used to have. It's really just about moving and doing the lifts again. And that was kind of the primary thing, and just having fun and thinking about what even are my goals with this again. Is it to compete ever? Is it to coach and just, be around the gym? Is it to maybe hit a PR in something at some point or something like that? I didn't exactly know. I had some personal events happen in May. So, it was April and then May right after. And that actually imparted a lot more to me to think, okay, here I am, I can lift again. I feel good. I had a healthy body. I had no injuries, and I want to compete, and not only compete, but seriously compete, and, compete at the highest level. I guess the main goal was as high of a total as possible as I can obtain, then, competition total. So
you knew relatively quickly to coming back to the sport that you wanted to not just do it, but take it very seriously.
Yeah, I guess within a month. So in that first month, it was kind of just feeling out the bar and everything again. Yeah. There's some very old, I'm not very old, but I have some videos on my Instagram of some of those early ones coming back, and it's a lot lighter weights and I look a lot different.
Abby is going to overlay those videos into this part of the show. When you were coming back and building back, you said you had to throw away all the old PRs and just not start over, but for large sense and purposes, start over. Was that challenging, knowing that mentally, I used to be able to do this, but now I either physically can't do this yet, or it's not smart to try to do it yet? Was that challenging at all?
I think so. I was doing my own programming at this time, and it was hard to determine exactly what would be the right weights, how to get back into things, and also just the soreness that I exposed. I remember at one point getting back into it, and I'll just, I guess, tell the story to anyone who cares, but being up at 3 a.m. because my quadriceps were so sore, I could literally not sleep, and just thinking is this right? But then still that day training and going well. So I think just the shock on the system of all that. But it wasn't too hard to maybe not ignore the PRs, because just, I guess, enough time had passed that yeah.
How, and I know this would be different for everybody, but just for you, how quickly were you able to get back to just the general range of where you had been? If you knew relatively soon the goal is to compete at the highest level, how quickly were you able to get back to that area, that territory?
I guess you can maybe taper this by weight class and body weight and things like that too. But I'd say seriously, I got back into the sport May 2023. I was again touching a bar in April, but I was serious. Okay, May, I am now back in it. This is my all, competing in the sport again. And I think it was in October that there was a meet that I did. Okay. I forget exactly. It was at Bassa, and I matched my best total ever there actually at that meet. And when I previously hit that total, it was in the 69 category. So this is a 67. And at that meet, I actually got a 6 kilo PR clean and jerk in comp or something like that. So again, different body weights for a while. That was a 67. Now I'm a 61 lifter. I also, for example, was doing different things. Like I was taking creatine now. I actually just never taken creatine in my past. Maybe that accounts for the difference. I don't know. But in about 5-6 months was kind of.
And that was another thing I wanted to ask you, again, because you had some frame of reference for what worked before, what didn't work before. I know just from talking to you now that you are very all-encompassing in how you prepare for your training. You have, a dietitian, you have a sports psychologist, you track all the things I imagine that can be tracked. Were those things that you had been doing before, or just like ways that you thought would enhance it this time around?
So maybe the worst thing I didn't track was if you were at the meets or not to know these correct superstitions. But
everyone has their flaws in their programs, and now we know.
I would say I came in with an elevated sense of what I want to do this time, and it were things I were not doing. So like you mentioned, using a dietitian. So I use RP Strength. I use Dr. Christian Carter, who's been excellent for my cuts. I used to cut to 61, and now I was just winging it. And I didn't, exactly know what I was doing. I would make weight, but was that, it's some of those reflections where it was like, okay, was this the most performative way I could make weight? And when now I was again approaching the sport, I have been trying to think, with every endeavor, is this the most performative way that will go? So I had never used a sports psychologist before. No one had ever recommended that to me to try, but I just thought, might that help? And I think so, but I think that's been amazing to use. Doing more frequent massage, even to a point, I know this will sound like so privileged, but where sometimes I want to break from getting massages because it's just like,
it must be tough, Chris.
Can you send us
I
like
think
a gift
your
card? We
your
can
ability
take your
to
sessions.
persevere through all these challenges is the most inspirational part of your story. Especially with the sports psychologist, I'm curious, in what ways, conscious ways anyway, have you noticed that have an impact on either your training or the competing, or both?
So the reason, and maybe this is particularly personal as an individual, why you might use a sports psychologist, it might be completely different for different people. When I set up these sessions and initially arranged what I want to focus on with the psychologist there, was ways to sort of help my training in general. So it was not so much like I have anxiety during competition, which is a fine thing, and you could work with a professional about something like that. Or, maybe it's very hard for you to lose the weight and you're always thinking about food, or maybe another thing that's related to that. For me, it was more about like, I have so many other things going on in my life. I'm a working professional. There was a time when I would be working, I was going to school, I was in a relationship, and also trying to train at the highest level. I mean, I'm not saying any of these things well too. When I was in a PhD program thinking I can also be at the highest level in weightlifting. I don't think that, was super wise.
Yes.
But anyway, a struggle for me was in my day-to-day training, how do I feel like I am giving my right energy in my training? That was what really motivated me to seek out maybe a sports psychologist. They have helped a lot, focusing like being more present in the moment, focusing more on the process, less on outcomes, and also just having fun more with all of it. My number one goal really for example, competing at nationals was to have fun and just try my hardest, and really getting the correct mind frames for that. There's a difference between just saying it and actually fully believing it too, and being able to experience through that.
When you competed at nationals this time around, you had been on that stage before.
Yes, I know you were there.
I just wanted another opportunity to remind you. Outside of my presence, what did you think was the biggest maybe factor or thing that positively influenced your performance this time around that either you didn't know about previously or you weren't doing previously, even if you did know about it? Like what were have you even put thought into that?
I don't think about much. No. I think that there's a couple things I could answer. There could be different tiers, but the number one that I would say for that is the national comp I had done prior to that was the 2024 Arnold, which was the AO1. And I remember I got there, I saw the venue. I saw, as you point out, the venue wasn't super nice. I mean, it was great, but
for anyone who is not aware, there were multiple weightlifting platforms at AO1 this year, and Chris's was like looking onto a concourse. So like there were just like streams of people just like walking in front of his field of view as he was taking the lift. And you did all right,
Yeah, I came in third at this meet, but not even to get so much into like, oh, that this is going to distract me. And like that was where the universities were. All the logos said University Nationals, and I'm there as the senior. And I remember, right,
Yeah.
and yeah, younger than Steve by a good amount, but I am older now. And also, this was my first meet lifting under a new barbell club, which was Philadelphia Barbell. And I really wanted to do well for that team and for the coach, Jim. And, seeing the venue was less, I felt a lot more pressure. Honestly, felt like after the meet, I was like, I didn't have fun with any of that meet. And a lot of it was just my own stuff, even caring about the fact that what the meet looked like now who cares? But even a couple other things, like I wouldn't want to warm up listening to music, because when I would step out on the platform, I wouldn't have headphones in. So my logic was I want everything to be so similar, but which has some validity and its logic. However, there's two things to this. One, I like listening to music when I lift. It's fun. It pumps me up. It's more exciting. And really key, it's fun. And the second thing is, which again, the sports psychologists help with, is that was an instance of me focusing on the future, not being present. So when I'm doing those warm-ups, and saying, I can't do something now because of something in the future, being the competition attempts. That's me thinking about the future instead of just focusing, how do I make these warm-ups great? And so a big takeaway from that national meet was that I did not approach it having really enough fun. And kind of, it's a tricky balance, especially for someone like me. Like I obviously want to do excellence with the things I do. And sometimes balancing excellence with fun can be hard.
Sure.
Because you might think like, well, if you're having fun, are you being serious? I don't know, something like this. But anyway, I kind of reflected on that. And that was the big thing I think I did do at Nationals, because at that meet at the Arnold, I remember afterward, for example, seeing the winner who looked like having fun. I also helped out a teammate, Colin, another lifter, a great lifter of Philadelphia Barbell, and he was having fun doing his warm-ups, and I was like, why aren't I approaching things this way? Again, after some time in sessions also with the sports psychologist, but I think that was a big change at Nationals I was really happy about, because as you saw, the back room was kind of chaotic. It was hard, but I was having a good time. I was just listening to music in the back, just lifting when I had to lift. And to me, that's really fun.
Good. And I think my next question, I imagine will fold into that. You went into this Nationals in your weight class. At minimum, you went into that day knowing that you had a shot at not just medaling, but winning a national title, which very few people have that experience of knowing going in, like, I'm in play here. How did that, was that something that you tried to consciously avoid? Was it something that you tried to consciously embrace? And how did that impact, I guess, your experience, knowing that you were trying to balance, taking it seriously as anybody would, and also still having fun?
I think that's a great question. And there can be different strategies for this. So some people might never want to look at a start list, going in and have no idea. I knew from my own personality, like I'd cave. So instead, I want to, know what it's like, but still just kind of take that in stride. And I think the biggest thing, for example, like when I went on my third attempt snatch, in my mind, it wasn't like this is for a medal or for this or that. It was just an opportunity to, again, try my hardest, because lifting heavy weight in front of people is what I have fun with. So that's what I focused on. And I would say it's kind of easy to say all that. Sure, sometimes thoughts would pop in during the time, sure, and like think like, oh, could this be a chance or not? But I think for the most part, they were not the overwhelming thoughts or anything like that. Even as then I went to clean and jerk as well, it was just again about making my lifts and having fun doing that.
But the thing that I think is most informative for everybody else, regardless of whether they're a national level lifter, they have national aspirations, or they lift locally and they want to have fun. I think a common experience for weightlifters to have is you finish a meet and you have peaked. If things have gone well, you have peaked, you feel the best, and you're like ready to get right back into it because you want to keep that momentum going. And this is the only way that you will be able to continue that uphill trajectory. And the idea of, at that moment when your body and your mind and your enthusiasm is at its peak, the idea of saying, okay, well, that might be true, but my body needs a break and my mind might need a break. Do you have any advice for folks who struggle with if not entirely letting go, just like loosening up just a little bit for a temporary amount of time, knowing that long term it will serve some benefit.
So basically talking about taking some rest after. Yeah. Well, I think really that's maybe worked in with their coaches or anything, but I also like to read a lot of general sports performance types of books. I like to read a lot in general, but a lot of those books too. A lot of them echo so much the importance of rest and how it's really an encapsulating part of your training and focus and all of that. I like to kind of in the backdrop of my mind think, well, what feels harder right now? If it feels harder to step away, that's probably the right thing. If it feels harder to just keep pushing because you're just riding it or whatever, then that's probably the wrong thing, because usually you need to do the harder thing because you're trying to elicit some change, and the change is actually to get better than where you just were.
Abby, I didn't mean to hog all that. I imagine you have questions as well.
Chris, you were talking about how this time around, you were having fun, you're listening to music, you like to train to music. Give me your top three songs that you're listening to, you play every time you lift. Or maybe not every time, but like that you prefer to lift to.
That's a very good question. And it changes. Well, I mean, one naturally changes, but also it's different in the snatch and the clean and jerk for me. So
me too.
I usually need, I have about 3 or 4 remixes of Pumped Up Kicks that I usually like to cycle through. Because that's to me kind of like a nice little chill vibe I can roll with through the snatches. And it kind of gets me like very zen and very focused. I can't be too amped for the snatch because I need, a lot of like technique and focus. For the clean and jerk, I usually try and get like very amped and very pumped and like just super almost ragey with it. So that would be something like maybe Kickstart My Heart by Motley Crue.
Okay.
Or some different synthwave songs, because otherwise I just is general synthwave. So I feel like a plethora of Pumped Up Kicks for the snatch, maybe some heavy metal, hard rock for clean and jerk, and then synthwave everywhere else.
I thought for sure you were gonna say like some symphony of like something during the snatches to just like
That's not a bad choice too, but yeah, I like something where I can be kind of like bobbing and doing a little bit of dancing to having fun in the back as well.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place to end it. Chris, thank you so much for coming on with us. Folks, we will be back in 2 weeks. We will have another special guest. I don't know who that special guest will be yet. And I also don't know what topics we're going to discuss, but I can promise you one thing we will not talk about is whatever Big Jake did at Nationals. We will not back down. See you next week.